What's up, guys? Jason Payne, your host of the Sexy Business Status Podcast. I'm here with a young buck, probably the youngest person I've interviewed so far, on at least on my podcast. 23 years old, entrepreneur, just like inspiring to me. I'm 37. I'll be 38 next week, which is weird. And I'm talking to a guy that's 23. Oh, yeah, I got 15 years on you, but it's weird to hear that and see that. But my friend Kimball Whitmer, man, dude, welcome.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm stoked to hang out with you and talk a little bit of shop.
Dude, it's wild. So 23 years old, and you're doing land development. You're building custom homes at 23. Stereotypically, you think of people are either in college, mostly not out of college, but like in the middle of college or towards the end of college. They're partying, they're drinking, they're doing dumb stuff. Maybe they're getting married, maybe having kids, maybe not. But most of the time, they're screwing around, going to school, and really don't have their head on straight, and they're just kind of just hanging. This is the hangout phase, traveling the world, that kind of crap.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, that's not my jam. I want to go a different route.
Yeah, for sure.
Like big time.
Yeah, big time. I don't know. I had a lot of people that I looked up to growing up that were super successful. All of them were entrepreneurs. And I think I had a lot of people just in my close family and friends that were like super against entrepreneurs in a way. And so I don't know, it just like I kind of became a little obsessed with just like what they did, how they did it. I don't know. I just always kind of had this stigma that like rich people were like stingy and whatnot. And so I don't know. I just was always obsessed with learning what they did. And on top of that, I like to ride dirt bikes and had some other expensive hobbies. And I figured, if I'm gonna keep doing this, I better figure out how to turn a few dollars. And so yeah. And so I became obsessed kind of with that idea of just being successful, and then jumped into it. And yeah, I realized I just like working more than I did making money.
So you're LDS, you're on your mission. We talked about this before we press record. You're on your mission. So those that are listening, right? The demographic here is like 95% male and 95% are like 28 to 44 years old.
Okay.
Right. So it's like right there. So even just 5 years before you even hop in the picture type deal.
Right.
But the principle is still the same of entrepreneurs, small business owners doing the thing. So your family, your dad was or still is a
aerospace engineer.
So aerospace engineer and general contracting are a little bit different. And so, but I always teach people, I'm like, hey, just because how you grew up, a lot of us, it's programming, right? We're taught as a kid from elementary school to junior high to high school, like, this is how to do X. This is how to tie your shoes. This is how to worship God. This is how to eat food. Not literally, but like, this is the type of exercise that you do or don't do.
Right.
And you do go to this college, you go to this university, you get this degree, and you go do this. So programming is a huge word that it's a trigger for me, because that's how I grew up. And I'm like, well, what if I don't want to do that? And what if that's not my jam? What if that's not my dream, but that's somebody else's dream? That's totally cool.
Right.
So you said you had this epiphany in, the back half of your mission of like, I don't think I want to go to school, and I want to kind of, change things up.
Yeah. Yeah. So
at 20 years old.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. About 20. Yeah. So I was called to go to the Dominican Republic. Never made it there because of COVID. And so I was in South Texas. And there I just met some families, met some people who were
Spanish
pretty
speaking?
successful. Yeah, for
Sure,
sure.
bilingual? Okay.
Yep, that helped a ton. And so on top of that, I just met those people, and I was like, well, what do you guys do? Like, just became a little just obsessive of learning what people did to, live maybe just a slightly better life, have better experiences for their family. And so I learned a lot of them were in real estate and a few different things. And I knew nothing like about real estate, even until that point. I didn't even know what a mortgage was or
interest rates.
Yeah. And so anyways, I figured that, if I could do something like that, I always thought like you had to love like exactly what you're doing, this and that, like love what you do and you never work a day in your life. But I think I just figured out that I just love to work. It was just more fun to work. And so, yeah, learned about real estate, and I got into that, started doing some wholesaling because I didn't have any money to fix and flip properties. I didn't have any like family or mentors that were in anything like that. And so I got home and I would just call people every day, like anyone I knew that was in that space, in that industry, or even just a successful entrepreneur, say, hey man, like I'll buy you lunch, this and that. Um, and then,
What was your biggest takeaway while making those phone calls and while doing research and all that? What was your biggest takeaway that you learned, the commonalities of these successful real estate guys or wholesalers when you called them? What was that one trait that they all had to contribute to their success?
I think it was like belief. Like none of them really doubted that it was possible. And I think the way I perceived entrepreneurship to be was a lot of luck, a lot of just certain people are blessed with certain opportunities that maybe like you don't have, and because of those, some people are able to be more successful. So I thought it was really just kind of luck based, and whatever opportunities were presented to you kind of determined the success of if you're able to be successful or not. And the biggest thing I learned is that was so untrue from a lot of entrepreneurs that I met, that a lot of them didn't start till even later in life, or till or even their family weren't entrepreneurs. None of the people in my family were in construction, anything like that.
Sure.
My dad always said, work with your brain, not your back. So go to college and, get a degree, learn. And so that you're valuable and you provide value to the workspace. And so someone will pay you a lot of money to,
So you're in what we call it's called the blue ocean strategy, but it's you're the muddy waters or the murky waters or the red ones where everybody's beating each other up and doing that, and you're like, and that with your dad, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm into this blue water where it's like the construction world, like your family has no. I come from blue collar, so I know all about like breaking your back and all that. So all my uncles, my uncle was a farmer for 40 years, my other uncle's a roofer for 40 years. My dad's still in doing flooring for 40 years. So I know like blue collar through and through. So I already knew that route. But you, like I said, went from your dad's background and that to doing this piece here, like especially at 23 years old, what kind of like adversity did you go through in order to say, hey, like I'm gonna go do my own thing? Because those are dark, quiet conversations, right? It's very lonely.
No, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, it kind of hindered my relationship with my family for a while. Just that I wasn't planning on going to college. And, I mean, on top of that, even, my dad actually was a farmer. I grew up a cotton farmer. And so he went to college and he was like, thank goodness I got out of that. I actually worked construction in high school, and which helped me get the years of experience. And so, but after that, I said I never worked construction again after I got out of it. But I mean, it cost me a lot of just a lot of evenings, a lot of things I just didn't go to be able to work. I remember like just like almost believing I was delusional. Like a lot of people kind of had me convinced until. I remember I got that first deal or something, and I was like, man, like, it's just out there. It's out there for anybody who wants to do it. And so, I mean, it cost me a lot, of relationships. It even cost me a marriage. And it was awesome.
That's crazy part, because apart from the marriage, like just the friendships, like I said, at that point, that has got to be a lonely road that you are embarking on. That journey is quiet, it's lonely, and it's the road less traveled, because people at that, guys, males, 20 to 23 years old, they're not doing what you're pursuing.
Right.
You're the unicorn. You're the exception, not the rule. Even if they're going to school and they're not partying and being, idiots, they're not like, I want to own my own business, and I want to, get into general contracting and all that stuff. Like that's not very, very common, especially at that age, because you're either partying or they're in a 4-year university, because that's the thing to do, right?
Right.
But I love what you said. You're like, dude, like you said before we press record, but you just said like, I literally thought for myself for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, like it was just kind of like subconscious, and I think that's what made me realize just the influence that your family, the people you're around, have on you, and like a lot of great things I learned from it and appreciate, love them, respect them, but I just genuinely hadn't like considered anything else. It seemed like you kind of need to figure it out in high school, like what industry you want to go in, and then knock out what you can in high school, and just go straight to college. Like you know, and the thing is like my dad actually is pretty successful for the most part, you know, if you compare it to whatever you want to compare it to.
Sure, sure, sure.
You know, there's a lot of people that have jobs that make, you know, few hundred thousand bucks a year. I don't exactly know what he makes, but,
He does well. You were eating rice and beans and starving.
no, wasn't eating rice and beans, and that was also kind of the hard part too. Is I could see that in myself as I had a little bit of comfort. I think my life honestly would have been easier if I grew up a little less unfortunate. Would have been a little hungry, honestly. But yeah,
A lot of fluff.
yeah, yeah, not a lot of fluff. You know,
Yep.
it's different. Like I for sure was blessed growing up. Like I went to the dunes growing up. You know, we had a boat. You know, all these things, and so that's why I was like, man, like, am I just crazy to go into this entrepreneurship thing? And I think the whole thing I learned through that, just because I changed kind of channels so many times, is like the reliability and I feel like the security there is in like building skills and just building, you know, yourself. Because out of all of my failed like business attempts, marketing attempts, whatever it was, like if I didn't gain anything monetarily, like at least I learned something from it, or I just built myself. Like,
Sure.
I don't know, that was huge. But yeah, I hadn't thought for myself in a way, you know, up until that point, which I just thought was so funny. I literally read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that like just like blew my mind. I was like,
Right.
oh, you know, that's a thought, I guess, you know, like take all of your money, invest into this. And then I read like Can't Hurt Me, and then I read a few other books, and I was like, no, like
Well,
these
David Goggins.
people
I
exist.
was listening to him before you came in.
Yeah. Well, it's like these people exist out here. Like there's people that, you know, it's not just like a dime a dozen. Like there are people who are entrepreneurs, and I just kind of became obsessed with that idea. Like I just, you know, I don't know. I just felt like I can't stand not working sometimes, and I just couldn't work for someone else as far as like, I just, you know, I'm just like ready to go. And
No, you cannot go ride your dirt bike on Saturday. You're like, excuse me?
yeah,
Like, pound salt, man.
yeah.
Right.
No, I remember that. But yeah, like it cost me a lot of things, a lot of lonely nights. Like, and what I think is so funny is that you probably didn't have this growing up, but I do, is I feel like entrepreneurship is very popular. Like I feel like there's a lot more like
Nowadays.
enticing.
Oh,
Like
big
on
time.
Instagram, you see it, you know, you see the alpha male, whatever page reels that, you know, people repost on their story all the time. But, and I feel like it makes it even harder, to at least feel like it's possible, but it's so much even easier. I mean, the barrier to entry is just so low.
Yeah.
These days, like the just like the extra mile, like people are just not willing to go. Like
Sure.
I remember when I started like wholesaling, like I literally just had a Google sheet and I had YouTube videos, and like keep in mind, maybe if I had a few $1,000, like I would have invested that easily into some sort of like training, mentorship, anything like that. But yeah, like I just like I'd laugh at that I even made a few $1,000 doing it.
Yeah, YouTube University, man.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. So like for roofing, it's and this is 5 years ago. I think it cost me like $3,300 to, and I had to be the qualifying party, right? So I had to have
Right.
experience.
Yeah.
But even then, like proving it is like the easiest. You can literally jerry rig that. It's ridiculous. But that just shows you how easy it is to get licensed in pretty much any trade, especially blue collar, right?
You're right.
And like, yeah, it was like $3,300 to get my license, and the fees for the licensing, to get a bond, minimum bond, and to get insured
Yeah.
for both liability and workers' comp, right? And like, I think it was like $3,100 or $3,300. It was like, hey, what does it take to like get licensed, right? Because like, oh, it's gonna cost me $30,000, and it's gonna be like, I don't have the money, and I'm like, it ended up being like $3,000. I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, yeah, but it's crazy. It's funny you bring that up, because the whole like entrepreneurism, and I think of like the stereotypical LDS white male in Utah, right? Those guys are they literally farm entrepreneurs. Like that's literally what they do.
Yeah.
And it's huge. But like, yeah, back in the day, like the entrepreneurship wasn't cool. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't a fad.
Yeah.
And but it's so easy now, especially with social media and videos and cameras, you know, literally at your fingertips.
Right. It's so accessible. Like I remember, it's crazy. Like I remember, yeah, the first property I got, I just found on Redfin, and I would literally just watch YouTube videos. I was like, what is earnest money? Okay. What is due diligence? Okay. How does that work? Like I remember knowing a few agents that knew about it, but I didn't know anyone like Spencer Caldwell or
Spencer's a good dude.
I remember actually I called that dude forever ago. I think he was a little standoffish. I just like was all nervous, like whatever. But I literally just didn't know what it was, and I remember like giving the title company $5,000. I was like, oh man, I don't know how I can like afford to do this. But it's and there's just even more levels to it now because I have a lot of friends who are in pest sales and they make a lot of money. Great. But it's so different to building your own brand. Like the amount of like time and effort it takes to do that in like detail. Like I remember like I had these like embroidered shirts I got and like, I opened up an entity. I remember the first time I
For
got
Sandbar or
an
for
EIN
wholesaling?
for wholesaling.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember like the first EIN I got. I remember I paid the stupid like service that it looks like it's an IRS website, but it's not.
Right.
I didn't know it was free. I remember just doing that the first few times and just like figuring all that out. And I realized like, oh, like, it doesn't really mean anything to like own a business. Anybody can go open an LLC. And I know a lot of people that,
I'm a business owner. I have an LLC and I'm like, oh, that's like LLC is the cheapest 3 letters like on planet Earth.
Yeah, it is. Sure. Yeah. A few $100s. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just a different entity. Really, legally, it's just not you. But yeah, right. And people who had solar sales or pests and, they run a team and manage it and that's great. And I think it's a great opportunity, whatever, I'm sure I have some things to say about it and whatnot, but, it's different to actually start a company. Like
that's a high paying job though.
Right.
It really just is. So you go do summer sales. I didn't go that route when I got back from my mission. I got married within like a year.
Yeah, me too.
And even had a kiddo and that whole thing. So I didn't do like go to Georgia or Kentucky or Texas or even locally and go knock doors. Like that was whether it was for alarms or pest control. Yep. But those guys can make bank. But at the end of the day, one, that's not a year-round sales position. Number one. Number two, you are working for somebody. You and their likeness and their brand and their reputation and their lead gen is all funneling onto you. You're just the closer.
Yeah, and if you can't get out on the doors, you don't make money.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're sick for a day, like you don't make money. It stops with you. Like, they're like, oh, I have friends, oh, you can work 20 hours a week. I'm like, well, why do you want to advertise working less? Like, isn't the idea just to work? Like, isn't the idea the work? Like, the money follows, but just it's so funny. They're like, oh yeah, so much freedom, but I'm like, is it though? Like when you stop, like
your money stops.
Like you can go to the dunes, right? You've got managers, you've got sales reps, you've got roofs moving overnight, right? You can take
leads you're generating while I'm sleeping.
Yep. It's moving, right? Yeah, my social media is getting likes while I'm moving, and yeah, like right now, sure, like there's some hats that I still have to wear, and eventually down the road, I'm continue to try and build a good team, a solid team to do that. But like, yeah, it's just it's funny. So it's a whole different thing. Like it really is just a high paying job, which a lot of money, but you also can only write off so much in taxes and right, and it's like great you made.
And by the way, go sell your door to door position.
Right.
What is that worth? 0.
And just like what it does to, and like, don't get me wrong, I knocked doors when I first when I was first wholesaling. I literally would just go knock doors in a golf shirt in Arizona in the summer. And it's just demeaning. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the grit and I love what it builds, but like, gosh, like it does drain on you a lot. And I couldn't imagine just having a family, what that, just at some point that energy is just not very giving. Like, I don't know, just when you close a sale or something, or you just get some sort of brand recognition, like it's very fueling, as a business owner.
Well, because one, it's yours, right? Two, and it's a brand that you stand by and that you define, right? Like Sandbar. Right. What is Sandbar Development? What does that look like? And do they build shitty homes? Do they build mansions? Do they build crappy homes? Do they build do they do this or that? Right? Just like State 48 Roofing with do they do sexy roof status? Do they do crappy roofs and all the above? But it's crazy how the other part is that the door knockers, right? Your buddies that are giving you hate, is that their sales job is literally worth nothing at the end of the day.
Right.
Like once they stop door knocking, their value literally goes to zero. When you own a
Right.
business, as long as you build a business, and
Right.
because you can still be a high paid employee with an LLC,
Yep, you can.
and you could be even less valuable than that door knocker guy with being a business owner. But if
Right.
you truly build it out and you get the teams and the systems and the processes, like that is worth, and you can monetize that for a substantial 7 or 8 or even 9-figure exit.
Yeah.
Right? Just like thinking like Cam Bodden, right? My buddy Green
Yeah,
Manga, right?
love that guy.
Freaking just rolled out like 9 figures,
Crazy.
for his pest control company. And it's, but if he would have stayed on the truck and stayed like, oh, it's just me and his old partner, Dusty.
Yeah,
and
I can
it's-
save money we can do this.
Yeah,
or-
we'll just run it out of my dad's garage.
Right.
His dad had money, and it's like we'll just stay lean and mean, just me and Dusty do it, and this and that. It's like cool. You go and do that, and like, oh, we got 200 or 3,000 accounts or whatever it is. Like that's awesome. It's not worth. I don't say anything, but it's really not worth much. But when you truly put your head down, and like I said, that grit. That's why I'm very attracted to you in the way of like this dude is 23 and has work ethic. Not that 23-year-olds or the younger generation doesn't.
Sure.
Some of them just have it or don't have it, or it takes longer to develop it.
Right.
And like that work, that hustle, that grind, dude, I did that for freaking 9 years.
Right.
5 years nonstop. Like put your head down. Like my buddy James McCabe teaches this. He's a gangster with multifamily and investments and raising capital and whatnot now. But he literally he said, I put my head in the sand and worked, not like out of ignorance, just like put my head down and disappeared for like, he said 2 years.
That's what it takes.
I did it for 5.
Right.
Like literally from 2010 to 2015, nobody knew who I was. And all I did was just roof and roof and roof and roof and roof.
Yeah.
Every day. That was when the hailstorm hit in 2010, if you remember that.
Well,
and-
sure, as a kid.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, let's see. That was 15 years ago. So you were
I
like,
was 9.
you were 9. You were
Yeah.
my son's 10. So you were in 3rd grade. Yeah.
Yep.
So in 3rd grade, there was a hailstorm
Yep.
here in Arizona. But it's so funny. But the point of it being like that grind and that hustle, like go and do that, but do it. And then if you need it, and sometimes you do it under someone else's umbrella, right? Like I worked for my uncle for 9 years, learning roofing, learning sales, learning production. I really didn't learn the back end of it, of like taxes and interest rates and all those things until the latter part, and even a lot in my current company. But like I mastered, for lack of better words, the roofing side and the production side and the crews and the payroll and trailers and ordering jobs and all those things. But like whatever it is, pick what you're gonna do and just freaking go at it.
Yeah, that's what I learned, and I'm sure that just was so valiant has paid you forward. But like I went all out at what I was going in, and even though I didn't ultimately stay in that, like I just learned so much from that. Like, yeah, the barrier to entry is just so low. Like when people say they want to start a business because they want to, have their own schedule and work whenever, like it's a scam. You give up the two very
100%
things
bullcrap.
you want to get into business. Like you give up all your free time and you give up this. Like I remember someone was getting after me the other day. I was scheduling meetings on New Year's Day, and I didn't think about it for a second. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot, it's a holiday. Other people won't work, and they're like, oh, what are you doing? Like it's a holiday. What do you? I'm like, what do you mean? It's Monday.
Yeah.
It's Monday. It's another day. Like, I got houses that got to get built. I got this that needs to be done. It's not a holiday, And so like you give up your time and you give up your freedom and you give up your money too. Like I remember just like, do I eat or do I invest more into marketing this month? And, it wasn't that bad. I was living at home, had food, whatever. But, yeah, it's different. And it's different when it's your own money too. Being willing to let it go. And that's even the part where I was like, man, I even got to dig myself into this hole even more because, not only did people think I was crazy for like doing this, but like, I just like would take out credit cards and I just like maxed out the credit cards and I was like, well, I hope this works out. I remember people asking me if I had the dual residential and commercial license, and I did not get the dual license because I literally did not have the $300 to pay for the extra one. Like it was the same test, everything. It was just an extra $300, but I just couldn't pay the extra $300. I figured that, I couldn't do it.
How long ago was that ballpark?
Oh, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So fast forward 2 years, I saw you just roll up in a 6-figure truck.
Yeah.
Right. Same one as I have.
Yep.
And so 2 years later, not like what are your finances, but like
Sure.
but just the Alex Ramosi talked about this, and I've done this many times. He said, work for 30. I love you brought up the analogy of like New Year's Day. It's like, bro, it's another day of the week for me.
Right.
He said, work for 30 days in a row, minimum 10, if not 12 hours a day, every day for 30 days.
Right. You'd be surprised what can happen.
You will literally be like blown away at yourself at what you can accomplish by working that many days in a row for that many hours.
Right.
But we think that we're like accustomed to this and we're accustomed to that. And I don't know if it was Hermosi or somebody else that brought it up. I saw it on a reel that like the Chinese, they work, is it 6/12s? Like that's a normal work week for them is 6/12s.
Right.
5 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
6 days a week. That is a normal freaking work week. And here we are as Americans, like 8 to 5 with a 30-minute lunch and 2 15-minute breaks and all these, like
but like working out twice a day, people think you're crazy for doing two work. You already worked out this morning. Why not?
You're a freak.
You're a freak. Yeah. I'm like, well, I like to lift too, and I like to run or, at night. And I'm like, well, why not? Like, it's just so weird to people.
Heaven forbid I want to be in shape.
Yeah.
And that's proven from the Gary Breckas and others of the world. That
You'd be surprised how much energy you have. People think you're just more exhausted, right? Oh, you got to wake up earlier, so you get less sleep, and then you're also exerting more calories. Like, you'd be surprised what endorphins do. Like, oh, I'm sad. Like, go outside. You'd be surprised what just endorphins alone, flooding your body with endorphins every day, what that would do for your mood.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that's why they talk about how like, oh, it's cold and flu season, and Gary Breck is like, no, it's a lack of vitamin D and massive increase of sugar season. That's literally what I was like. Holy shit, that's so true. I'm like, because if you're outside, that's what I try and do. Like I was trying to do a 30-minute walk. 30 to 45 minutes every single day, preferably during the day when the sun's out. Sometimes I do it like early in the morning or late at night, but like just doing that, like dude, it changes and I throw a vest on, right? And it just changes everything. But dude, like you want to get a 1-up, that's just like eat somewhat decent. Like I've meal prep here in the back.
Yeah.
But every day, come in the office, what's your breakfast? One of these 5 things. Cool. And I don't have to worry about like, am I going to eat garbage or that? Like I'm already preparing myself and setting myself up for success with my diet because I'm already knowing what I'm going to eat for that day, and not like, oh, there's the Burger King or there's the cookies and cream, there's the whatever bull crap. And so let me ask you one other question before I let you go. So putting your head down, grinding it out, telling everybody else, for lack of better words, like shut up. This is my dream, and I'm gonna work through it. I don't need you to do it for me. Someone to trust you to develop land and especially custom build a home, that takes an insane amount of trust.
Oh yeah,
and it's not a cute little like $250,000 starter home, right? Or, those don't even exist. But like you're talking about a million or a multi-million-dollar custom home for a 23-year-old. How old do you have to be to rent a car, Dakota? 25.
Yeah.
Like you can't even rent a car right now.
Right.
Like legally, right? Like, but here you are developing the land and then literally building a custom multi-million-dollar home for somebody. How do you establish that kind of trust? Because some people think you need the salt and pepper, or you need to be like, I've been doing this for a decade, or I've been doing this or that.
Right.
You're like, bro, like I was literally in high school. I was in high school 4 years ago.
Right.
Like how did you? That's an objection you have to overcome.
Like, every time, it's the hardest objection.
Is your dad the owner of Sandbar? Like, no. Where's your dad? Right? No, it's me. And you're like, holy crap, what does that look like?
It's hard.
It's fascinating.
So, a few things I've done. One, the truck. Honestly, if it were up to me, I would drive a crappy truck, but it's just not good for your brand presence. And also,
pay attention to that. That's a reel right there.
Also, it does something for your confidence too. When you drive around in a nice car, you'd be surprised.
My truck gets 10 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
All my other like sales reps and biz dev people, they drive
14. Yeah,
they drive
terrible.
GMC Canyons that get like 26 miles to the gallon. Mine gets 10. I'm like, it's not the 10. It's not the. I don't do it for the gas mileage. I show up. It's like that dude. Like if he can afford that truck. Like there's just validity behind it.
There's a lot of questions that don't get asked. Not that I'm trying to sweep anything under the rug. I'm actually super transparent, when we go into it. But
sure,
that I actually did have a beard for a little bit to help. But
dude, it's funny. Yeah, Dakota's heard me say this before. So if I shave, I lose 5 to 7 years.
Yeah,
If
I look
I
like
with
a
a
baby
beard,
too.
they say, yeah, I could see you being 40. If I shave, I might pass for 30.
Right.
No joke. And I'm like, holy shit. So I literally, but part of it, I just hate shaving. But
Yeah.
like having the beard, it's like, because you have a beard, all of a sudden, like you are aged and experienced and you're good at what you do.
Right. Yeah. No, but I
Oh,
think
it's so funny.
the way that I overcome that is, just I think there's a lot of misconceptions in construction. Like one, like, yeah, I do have experience framing and some of the other trades, but as far as building the home, like it's really not all me. You do need to know. You need to know the ins and outs of a home, which I've definitely spent plenty of time doing. But
The process.
yeah,
And,
that and using I use a lot of subs that a lot of high end builders used. They vetted them out, so I'll use a lot of those subs. But you'd be surprised just what really like just on top of it communication goes, and just being super transparent and just really like going into details and being very attentive. It really goes a long way with the clients and the customers. Just to let them know like, hey, we're gonna crush this. Like, just know like there will be mistakes here and there, but like we're on top of it. We're here to do it right, and ultimately, I can offer a good deal. That's kind of part of it. But yeah, for like this multi-million-dollar home coming up, one, it helps when a lot of people know, like Grady, he already knew who we were, and the agent, and so we get to kind of use some of those brands as far as it helps build trust. But
So
yeah,
I don't want to sleep on that because you, with your lack of brand, because you're just so young,
right,
and you're putting a lot of time and blood and sweat and tears to grow it and get it recognized and big and fast,
yeah,
which is huge. But as you're doing that, the likeness of other moguls in your space and using their likeness, whether it's a developer, whether it's an investor, whether it's an agent, whether it's maybe it's a big subcontractor. They're like, oh,
right,
dude, like this guy's doing the framing, this guy's doing the roof, this guy's doing the whatever. Like, oh, this kid knows what he's talking about, and he's using big names and big this. Like,
right,
there has to be like you're almost like name dropping, like not on
yeah,
purpose, but it helps you give you more
yeah,
credibility that like, hey, I'm willing to do this right and use the right people,
oh yeah,
right? And still to know that because you're not the one putting on the roof, you're not the one pouring the foundation, like you
right.
personally, right?
No,
But you grab, if it takes 10 or 12 or 15 trades to build a house, like, dude, I just grab the 10 or 12, 15 best trades and we put all that together and say, here's a badass house,
yeah,
right? And
that's
you
what
and
we
you use
do.
their experience.
Yeah, and we're cost plus, which is super nice, and our margin's just competitive, just because our overhead's low. I don't
Sure.
believe in being the cheapest guy out there. Like I actually believe a lot in our value. Like I've spent a lot of time, like especially just this last year, just on client feedback on like stages of what we have walks through concrete and just writing things down. Like, okay, well, what do we look through with our clients? Like, where do we want these drains? Where do we want this water? Okay, framing. What things do we want to go over? Like, and a lot of contractors in the home building world will kind of stray from change orders and things like that. But just being cost plus, like I'm all for it. If we're gonna build a custom home, let's build a custom home. Like this thing's gonna change a little bit, and there's just kind of a little bit of preparation and just a little more time invested at each stage of it that just makes everything go so much faster. Like, if for example, like our trades, we'll add just an extra day on our trades in our schedule, and you'd be surprised what an extra day is. That okay, these guys ended up going a day over, boom, schedule's still on time. Because if we gotta go over a day and then we tell the other guys, all right, you guys got to push back, and then we can say, well, we have another job, we're gonna hop on that one, then it's not 3 days, it's
Or
just
a week.
or a week. It's just a lot better. There's just kind of little things, and we're still learning, but I truly believe in just crushing it for your clients. Like that alone is just kind of it, because we're really just a service, and it bodes well. And we get a lot of clients that come to us, hey, I've got a brother that floors. Okay, great. Well, what happens when Martine chops his hand off? Can your brother insure him, or am I going to get sued, or what's going to go
Sure.
on? Yeah, just
Or
things
the
like that.
homeowner's gonna get sued.
Or you're gonna get sued,
Yeah.
right? What happens when this happens?
Yeah,
Like,
dude, no-
it's not gonna happen. Well, just wait till it does. Like,
Yeah, not if but when.
not if, but when. It might not happen on this project. It might go all the way through. Just that's why just subs have been huge. I've been just trying to just find the best people. I think one thing I've learned is just there's just so much value in business and collaboration with other just great people. And it bodes very well just for brand awareness, just for other people that have great businesses and business models. And that's one thing I look for too, just when we're looking at subs and vendors is, we've had some great subs, maybe some framers that they'll do great work, but their draw schedule's all over the place. It's because, this other job took this money, now they need more, or this and that. And then they're just their schedule. And I'm like, listen, it doesn't need to be the cheapest price or the fastest schedule. I just want to know that it's going to happen. That way, when I provide that to the client, and then it changes, then I'm the one that gets burned because they're like, well, why has it changed? I'm like, well, that it just changed, they changed it. And so they're like, well, get a better hold of this or that. So, it looks a lot better on us when we.
I think like part of success just by talking with you and working with you and seeing what you're doing is like just being, like I said, being transparent of like, hey, like I don't need the cheapest price. Give me a solid price, but also give me a solid time frame. Don't try and fluff it.
Yeah, don't fluff it. Be real. Like if these other guys gave me 14 days and you gave me 16 days, like trust me, that's not the difference between you guys getting the job or not. Like it's not all about that. Like
you're 10% higher, cool, but we show up and we dominate and we get it done on time, on schedule with no change orders. You're like, dude, you're my best friend. Let's go. Like,
yeah, I know.
That's my thing. I tell people, my dude, they're like, oh, like, because what do you want for this referral fee or for this deal or for this lead? Thanks, man. I'm like, dude, I was like, buy me an In-N-Out. Like that's all I want. Like, let's go shooting, let's go riding, let's go to the dunes, let's go whatever. I was like, I don't want your money. I was like, what I do tell.
Yeah.
And my buddy Jason Jarvis said when I worked with him for a long time in the restoration world. He's like, dude, just take care of my clients.
Right. The law of reciprocity. I do the same thing. Yeah. Preston, he was, hey man, what do you want for, no, dude, like just do a good job. That looks good on us. That helps us get more clients. I'm happy that you're feeding your family, that your subs, your laborers, they're feeding their families. Like it's all good, dude. Like,
Flex, Preston?
Yeah, Preston. Yeah.
Yeah, good cat.
I'm like, dude, just take care of, just do what you said you were going to do and do a good job. That's all I want.
On time, on budget. I don't
want a 25% referral fee on this or that. Like that's kind of the one thing I do is like, I'm not huge on that. Yeah. Maybe if it's a huge thing, sure. Yeah. If you want to give us a little kickback, that's great. We'd appreciate that. But, you can also just give us a better price too. Instead of paying me directly.
It's like, why don't we not do a kickback and just drop the price? Yeah.
Why don't you just, take my referral fee out and give us a better price?
That's awesome. So Kimball, how can someone maybe wanting to entertain either getting into land development or building a custom home and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way that the listeners can get a hold of you?
Instagram, just go on Sandbar Development, DM me. I have people that DM me all the time. Hey man, love what you're doing. And sure.
Are you entertaining, because people say, oh, I build custom homes. Like that's a very vague comment. Mm-hmm. Are you entertaining like remodels and additions right now or strictly just ground up?
Just ground up. We've done some remodels, additions. I think you need a lot more in-house people to make those make sense. I think that makes a lot more sense. I love using subs and people that have other great businesses. So we're doing strictly right now 3,000 livable minimum and up to whatever, if it's 30,000 square foot house, maybe we won't, 20, hell yeah. But yeah, and ideally we'd love to go to 4,000, but right now 3,000 livable and up, and we'll build in the East Valley.
Location was my next question.
Yep, and we'll also look at stuff in. I mean, if you got something in Arcadia, Paradise Valley,
if it pays, sure.
If it pays, sure. We're happy to move up to Cave Creek or whatever. Right now everything's in the East Valley, which has been super nice. But yeah, absolutely, we'll build anywhere else as well. So yeah,
cool. Out of Arizona?
No, not right now. I've been looking at a few other places, but I think we have a lot more growing to do here, and I'm going to focus on that before I look at other locations. So, yeah.
Dude, thanks, man, for being on. Appreciate it. Like I said, 23 years old, hustling, grinding, building custom homes at 23, when most 23-year-old white male dudes are freaking just being idiots at ASU. And everywhere in between. So, dude, thanks for being on. Appreciate it. And I love the example you're setting for the rest of your generation, realistically. Like, there's a lot of people can learn to put your head down and grind it out and not asking for handouts from mom and dad and all that kind of stuff and just willing to go for it and it's impressive. It's inspiring, even as you know, I got almost 15 years on you. But I appreciate the hustle, and I love people that want to do good work, and that want to, you know, build, like I said, build their own brand and build something for themselves. And you're doing that. So,
Appreciate
anyone
it.
listening, you want to hit them up for advice, or, you know, any obstacles or maybe something you're going through that Kimball or myself can help you out with. Like I said, hit us up, DM, and Sandbar Development. Obviously, you know mine, and we'll see you on the next one. Be great.